Hi everyone, this is HM&S video number 57 and you are most welcome for it. Last video we saw how to use the if function in Excel and we did a lot of nested if, that is putting ifs function inside another if function. Today we want to see how to use a more updated if function called the ifs function with S. The ifs function will help us to avoid nesting if functions. Let's switch on to Excel and we dive deeper into how to use ifs function. Now in this video we're going to use the same tables we used last video so that we can compare the two functions, if and then ifs function. Now this is the table we used last video. It has the sales agents and the revenue generated by those agents. We still have a target of $2,000, so we want to come to this column here and then we identify those who met the target and those who did not meet the target. So if you generate a revenue of $2,000 and above, that means you met the target. So we want to come here and then we identify you as met the target. And then for those who generated the revenue less than $2,000, we want to come here also and then we identify them as didn't meet the target. Now last video we did this logical test here. We asked, is this revenue greater than or equals to the target, which is $2,000? Escape. And after doing that, we copied our formula down and we got two possible results. It's either true or false. So when you do a logical test, either you get true or false. Also, last video we did the same thing here using the if function. This is how we did it, escape, and we identified those who met the target and those who did not meet the target. Now let's click on this cell and we see how we can also do the same thing using ifs function. Now I'm going to do equals to if. Now this first if here without s is the one we used last video, but the one we want to use this video is this last one here, which is having s. So I'm going to down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, and then when I see it, I highlight it in blue. I'm going to hit tab to select it. Now the ifs function has these arguments here. It has logical test 1, and then value if true 1, then you go to logical test 2, and then value if true 2, then you go to logical test 3, and then value if true 3. So you go on like that. It doesn't have a value if false like we saw last video. So I'm going to backspace, 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 and then backspace. Now for logical test, we still do it the same way we did last video. So let's start by doing logical test 1. So I'm going to ask, is this revenue greater than or equals to the target, which is $2,000? Click. Now since I'm going to copy my formula down, I want each and every cell to look at this target here. So when I copy my formula down, I don't want the cell reference for the target to move down with my formula. So I'm going to lock it using the F4 key. So this is our logical test. It will come either true or false. So I'm going to type comma to go to the value if true 1. So for value if true 1, we want met target. So I'm going to click on met target. Again, I'm going to lock this using the F4 key. Now, comma, it will go to logical test 2. Now for logical test 2, we ask the second logical test. So we are going to ask, is this revenue, this time around we are doing less than the target, which is $2,000. I'm going to click. Again, I'm going to lock this using the F4 key. Now, comma, to go to the value if true 2. Now if the revenue is less than the target, I want the ifs function to give me didn't meet target. So I'm going to click on didn't meet target. Then lock it using the F4 key. Now this is all we want. I simply need to close my bracket. Now if I control enter and then I copy my formula down, you can see we are getting the same results as the one we did here using the if function. Escape. Now let's scroll down and we see our second example. This is the same table that we used last video. We have again the sales agents, this time around the regions where the sales agents are coming from, then the revenue generated by those sales agents. So what we want to do, we want to come to this column here and then we allocate the percentage of the tax we want to impose on these revenue amounts on this column here. So if the sale agent is from northern region, we want to allocate the tax of 2%. If the sale agent is from eastern region, we want to allocate a tax of 3%. And if the sale agent is from western region, we want to allocate a tax of 5%. So I'm going to click on this cell and then we start doing it. So I'm going to do equals to ifs function with s When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. Now for the logical test, one argument we're going to do is the region equals to northern. Click on the northern region here. Now I'm going to lock it using the F4 key, since I'm going to copy my formula down. Now comma to go to the value if true 1. If it's true that the region is northern, we want a tax of 2%. So I'm going to click on this 2%, F4 to lock it, comma to go to logical test 2. Now for logical test 2, again we are going to do is the region equals to eastern. Click on the eastern region, F4 to lock it, comma to go to the value if true argument. Now for the value if true, that's if the region is eastern, we want a tax of 3%. So click on 3%. Again, F4 to lock it. Now comma to go to logical test 3. Now for logical test 3 argument, we're going to do the same thing. Is the region equals to, this time around, western. Click on western. I'm going to hit the F4 key to lock it. Now comma to go to value if true 3. Now for value if true 3 argument, if it's true that the region is western, we want the tax of 5%. So I'm going to hit the F4 key to lock it. Now this is all you need to do. I'm going to close my bracket. Now when I control enter, then I copy my formula down, you can see we are getting the same results as the one we got here using the nested if. That means it's actually working very well. Now I'm going to show you another method which is very important if you're using the ifs function. So I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to ifs. When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. Now for logical test 1 argument, we're going to ask, is the region equals to northern? And then I'm going to lock the northern using the F4 key. If it's true the region is northern, comma, for value if true, we want to allocate a tax of 2%, F4 to lock it. Now we still have two conditions or two regions to go. So I'm going to comma to go to logical test 2. Now for logical test 2, we're going to ask, is the region equals to eastern? And then I'm going to hit the F4 key to lock it, comma. So if it's true, we want to allocate a tax of 3%, F4 to lock it. Now we have one condition left, so I'm going to type comma to go to logical test 3 argument. Now instead of doing the logical test the way we have been doing it, for the logical test 3 argument, I'm going to type there true, and then comma to go to the value if true. Now for the value if true 3, I'm going to type 5%, then lock it using the F4 key. Now what is the meaning of this true? Now this true means for all other conditions except these two that we have put before, allocate for me a tax of 5%. So if we were having other regions also, like for example central or southern also here, we could just use true for the logical test, and then we use the same value for all those other regions. That means if the region is northern, we want 2%, for eastern we want 3%, and then for all other regions or everything left, we want 5%. That's the meaning of this true. So I simply need to close my bracket, and when I control enter, and then I copy my formula down, you can see we're getting the same results. That means it's actually working very well. So let's scroll down and we see our last example. Now here we have the same table that we used last video. It has the home team, that's Nigeria throughout, because we are talking about last home matches. It has the scores for the home team. Then it has the scores for the away team. These are the away teams. Now what we want to do, we want to come to this result column, and then we put the results here. So if the score for Nigeria is greater than the score for the away team, we want to come to results column, and then we put there win. If the score for Nigeria is less than the score for the away team, we want to come to this result column, and then we put there lost. And if the score for Nigeria is equals to the score for the away team, we want to come here and we put there draw. So that's what we are going to do here. We did it here last video using the nested if, as you can see, escape, and we got these results here. So let's see how we can also do it using ifs function. So I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to ifs. When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. Now for logical test 1 argument, we're going to do is the score for Nigeria, that is the home team, greater than the score for the away team, click, and then comma. If that's true, then we want win. So this time around, we're going to type the results we want in a formula. So anytime you're typing a text in a formula, you need to type it in double quotes. So open quotation, we want win. And then I'm going to close my quotation. Now, comma, to go to the logical test 2 argument. For logical test 2 argument, we are going to ask, is the score for Nigeria, that is the home team, less than the score for the away team, click, and then comma, for value if true 2, if that's true, we want loss. So open quotation, type loss, close quotation. Now, comma, to go to logical test 3 argument. For logical test 3 argument, we are going to ask, is the score for Nigeria, click, equals to the score for the away team, click, and then comma, to go to value if true 3 argument. Here we want draw, so open quotation, type draw, and then close quotation. Now when I close my bracket and then control enter, I'm going to double click and copy my formula down. You can see we are getting the same results as this one where we did using nested if. Escape. Now last video we also used this nested if to allocate the point gain. I've also gone ahead to do it here using ifs function. Now what we have done here, the logical tests are actually the same. The only different thing here is this. Instead of putting here win, I've put the number 3 because for win we want 3 points. Then for loss we want 0 point. Then instead of draw we want 1 point. And when you are typing a number in a formula, you do not need to put it in quotes. So that's exactly what I've done here. Escape. And we are getting the same results as this one where we use nested if. So that's actually how you use the ifs function. Yeah, that is it for this particular video here. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you found this video interesting, give it a like and then you share it with your friends. This is a playlist that's having all the videos about logical functions that we have talked about. You can click on it, then you go and watch them. Until next video, HM&S video number 58, then we meet again. Thank you.